that if it didn't happen, I wrote that book in early 2007, and I said if it didn't happen by the end of 2007, and by no later than 2009, then the astrological computations that Nostradamus used would close the aperture of the window of danger until the middle of the next decade, 2015, 2016, when those same aspects come back again. And it could very well be that much of what this book was about is about something that's happening in 4 years from now. And then you look at the way the Middle East is going, and it's starting to look like it's tracking in to that possibility, especially with the other key thing that, I mean, the most important thing about this book, Predictions for 2011, is that, we start with Politicorp, which is an active new aristocracy of a corporate aristocracy that's trying to control the world.
Right.
It's, of course, it's not organized like a lot of conspiracy buffs like to think. It's very disorganized, just like the aristocracies of Europe were at war with each other. They weren't all one monolithic power over the people. And it is no different now. There are oligarchs, CE oligarchs, I call them, CE oligarchs of China fighting CE oligarchs of America, fighting CE oligarchs of the EU, of Russia. These are the new great houses, if you will, of CE oligarchy. And you have these emergent middle classes. And they're going to demand what we demanded 250 years ago. And there will be revolutions and civil wars and things that will come as we're in the first stages of this, where the aristocracies want to push it down. But what will happen is the people will push back. The danger is that they push back in leaderless revolutions of the mob. In this case, that would be like the Tea Party never got its founding fathers and still wore the war paint and started running around trashing things. That is the danger that we have now, that there is no leadership in any of the rebellions and revolutions that are happening. But I'm hopeful that, as prophecy tends to be predictable because people tend to fuel that by their conditioning rather than their enlightenment that they came with, that's buried under a code of personality. And that's why meditation is there to help uncoach you from that so that you can break free of being predictable. Because of that, people follow certain patterns. And a good prophecy scholar has a sense, an instinct in how the patterns are repeated. And a meditator sees those patterns in their own life. And when you see deeply these patterns in your own life, you instantly see them in everyone else because we're all interconnected in our collective unconsciousness. So this force, to get back to something you were saying about 20 minutes ago about that there's a force that the Kali Yuga, the Age of Iron, and all seems to be pushing down on us. I call that phenomenon, at the end of the book on the third Antichrist, I make a 180-degree turn. I say, you know what? This is all fantastic, but Nostradamus is barking up the wrong tree. He has understandably fixated on the personification of evil at the cost of not seeing the thing that is right in front of him and in front of everyone. And I call it the Antichrist unconscious. It is that thing in us which we have been forced to adopt since our birth, which turns us into egocentric, personalized personalities, borrowing identities, like now I'm born here, so I call myself an American. I call myself John Hogue. If you say certain things a certain way, I will have a button that will be pushed, and I will respond Pavlovianly in a certain way. You burn my flag, I get it violent. If you burn somebody else's flag, I don't care. In fact, I might applaud it if it's the flag I am programmed not to like.
Right.
Yeah. All mechanical behavior. And you as a Gurdjieffian understand how Gurdjieff is one of the great purveyors, a great prophet of calling it straight and calling it down to earth and calling a spade a frigging spade. When it comes to the ego.
Yep.
And Gurdjieff used to say, and I think it was more a challenge, here to give you an example of two very interesting masters, Gurdjieff and OSHO are polar opposites. So in a lot of ways, they attract. I mean, when I took sannyas way back when I did that in 1980, the first thing I did the following morning was buy meetings with remarkable men.
Oh, wow. One of my favorite books.
Yeah, I always found that Gurdjieff was a way, because he was opposite to my own master. I mean, Gurdjieff was about work. Osho was about let go. Their teaching qualities were very different, but not really. And here's how I can explain that. I mean, it was more how they taught us, but they were coming from the same room with two opposite doors to enter that same room of mystery. Gurdjieff used to say that people don't have a soul, that they have to, through their awareness and their practice of the work of becoming less mechanical, of remembering themselves every moment, create in themselves a soul, and that is what incarnates. That the vast majority of people that you see all around you have no soul. They think, they dream, they mentalize that they do. They go to church. They can be popes. They can be great religious theologians and all, but they're all basically soulless, because there is a certain thing one must do to create soul. It's a commodity. It's a thing that consciousness is something that you feed, that you create. Now, Osho's approach was interestingly different and the same. He would say, you have a soul, but if you don't give it the right water, the right awareness, the right attention, the right climate for its growth, it remains a seed. And a seed can last forever, but it's dead until it sprouts. It can have all the potentials contained of the great oak in it, but if it's not nourished, and life after life, it just goes in and out without water, it can last for eons and be dead. So he's saying the same thing. But he's saying you have a soul, but it's a seed. Gurdjieff is saying you don't have a soul, you have to earn it. But they're really saying the same thing. That's how two very different masters, two very different approaches, can actually be giving you a dimension of the same thing.
Yes. Yep.
Well, my goodness, have I had a rant?
Well, it's been a great one so far, and it's going to take us almost to the end of the hour pretty soon. I should probably say something about the book. Yeah, hurry. hurry.
Well, the most important, there you go. Step right up and hear what's going on in 2011. Well, a couple quick predictions. Certainly, we're seeing the Donnybrook that's about to happen on the floors of Congress, which I had a whole chapter about called Watsington, D.C. And I said in the book that it was probably all this kumbaya stuff after the midterm elections. Everybody's trying to be very civil, but the doo-doo's going to hit the fan by April at the latest. And I would say that's gearing up to happen. The other important thing to understand is that the end of my prediction for 2010, I talked about how Mother Nature is declaring war on our abuse of her ecological balance, and I then detailed almost 100% what was going to happen in the year 2010. But I said this was a 2-year hit. And I warned, and I warn again in the predictions for 2011, that if we don't heed the warning of Mother Nature, she's having her blizzard cold chills, she's having her feverish summers in record-breaking climates. Climate temperatures. If we don't listen to that, she will redouble. All the things you saw in 2010 will be up 50% in 2011.
Okay.
And so the other thing to be aware of is I've been pretty accurate on hurricane seasons in the Gulf. I said there wouldn't be anything going on in the Gulf for 2010, but I say in 2011 that you're going to see a reprise of the 2005 season, where Katrina and Ivan and a lot of those happened. That whatever was keeping all the storms boiling out in the Atlantic, they're all coming in for a visit in the Gulf states area for 2011. Unfortunately, I have to say that. droughts in the southeast. That's happening. There's fires. Strange thing about this, you can have hurricanes that can cause great floods and damages at a time when the southeast gets hit by hurricanes, has fires. The creeping crawl of major earthquakes coming up the eastern side of the Pacific Rim is ongoing, and it will continue to walk up the Chilean coast into Central America, into Southern California, and also Washington State, where I live in. I expect that Washington State will have a between 5 and 6 magnitude earthquake in western Washington this year.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when yet, but follow the moon cycles. It usually happens in full moons, 5 days before or 5 days after.
Right, right.
So,
and what about the global financial system?
In 2010, for years now, I've been forecasting this recession, that it would happen in predictions for 2008, which I wrote in 2007. I forecasted the recession. And I said in that prediction, and evolved it in predictions for 2009, 2010, that if we have a 2-year probation, where if we don't fix the bank reforms, we don't have the bank reforms, we don't have the Wall Street reforms, and the European banking reforms, if we kind of go on with business as usual, starting in October of 2010 and throughout the first half of this year to the middle of 2011, the aperture opens up for another major economic crisis. This crisis, I found it very odd that my oracle, which I used for this, said something that kind of went against the grain for me. It's not going to come from the usual sources. It's going to be over the price of oil. Now, I talked about the price of oil going past $100 a barrel and rising possibly as soon as October 2010. But the thing about predicting dates, things, because there's free will, things can be delayed, things can be erased if we do the right things.
Right.
But I left.
We're 5 minutes over.
Well, okay, so
John,
read the book, folks, and you'll get the rest of it.
That's been a fast hour. I'll tell you, you'll have to come back and we'll talk some more about all of this. And just to let everybody know what the website is. It's HogueProphecy.com. I think everybody should get your ebook and find out what we're talking about.
Okay, and you've got a link on your pages so people can go through there and check me out.
Absolutely. And John, it's been a great hour. I want to thank you again for being here, coming back after so long, and we'll have to do this again soon.
Yes, hopefully soon. Okay. Thanks, Lance.
All right. Good night.
Good night.